Just click go live.
Perfect. All right, we are live, I believe. Yeah. Welcome everyone to another edition of Fridays on the Edge. We are having a very special Fridays on the Edge today with our whole team, or most of us. Thanks everyone for being here. Of course, we have NATO, myself, Laura Riley, Randall Massey, and our, I'm going to say media partner, Ken Underhill from CyberLife is here joining us as well. So thanks everyone for being here. Of course, we are talking about the underground Nexus because we're just so very, very excited about it. And it's, been the culmination of a lot of work.
It's like everything.
It's everything. So yeah, we're excited to be here. Thanks everyone for being here. And we're going to talk a little bit, I think, about the Nexus and what everyone is planning on using the Nexus for. And Nathan, you want to start and give us maybe a little short rundown on what the Nexus is?
So the Nexus, maybe like the best way to put it is, it's the cloud wherever you want it, and in as many places that you want it to be in, when you want it to be. So like imagine like if you could just like take AWS or Azure and then put it wherever you want. You can even put it up in Azure or AWS or in a Raspberry Pi or on your desk. It's just basically an entire fully configured server that's cloud native focused that you just download and install. It's almost like a virtual machine, but it's not even a virtual machine. It's software, so it doesn't even require all the requirements to use a virtual machine. So
yeah, so we actually have a nice little landing page on our website. I'll drop the link in our Facebook chat. For everyone who's not in our Facebook group, there is a link in the description to this video that you can go and join our Facebook group, and then you can participate in our chat. We're going to be mainly monitoring the Facebook chat because Fridays on the Edge is something we typically do exclusively in our Facebook group. So, but for everyone who's out there on LinkedIn or YouTube, welcome. Thanks for being here, and go join our Facebook group.
That's right. Yeah.
Randy always posts lots of cool stuff in there. We always, I usually try and post when we are doing other live events. I like to drop it in there as well. So there's always lots of stuff going on in the Facebook group. The cloud native engineers.
You can always see Ken's memes in there if you really want.
Right, I think that should draw a few people in.
That should.
If you like a good GIF, then that's where you should be.
That's the most important thing.
So yeah, I actually did a live video earlier today where I installed the Nexus myself, which was kind of, obviously I've looked over NATO's shoulder a lot and I've seen him using it a lot, but it was my first time today actually like installing it. I just installed it on my own desktop and it was very easy. It took me 45 minutes, and a big part of that was just waiting for things to happen, or waiting for things to install. So the hardest part was probably just coming up with things to say for like 20 minutes of dead air.
Within 45 minutes, we have a whole video with proof of Laura configuring ports and applications and web apps, and she set up monitoring immediately, all without a PhD, and she did it in less than an hour.
That's right.
Not even a month. Amazing.
Yeah, it was really simple. It really is a copy-paste data center. So you can go to our GitHub. That's also linked below in the description of this video. To if you want to build the Nexus yourself, you can go ahead and just go and do it. Follow the quick start video, or you can follow my video that I did, which I actually had to pull up the quick start video for a little help in one spot, but we made it happen.
You did amazing.
Yeah.
Made cloud tools.
I did, and I got into everything except for the Pi-hole, which I realized I did have a little typo in there, which is the only reason why I couldn't get the Pi-hole to pull up.
Well, normally what you did takes most people like 6 months to do, but I would say within 6 months you could probably figure that out. And someone else trying to do it manually, or the other ways available in the world,
Yeah, well, let us save
About
you
6
all of
months.
that time and just go do it in less than an hour like I did.
I was going to tell you though, you might want to check your port configurations because I'm actually getting your logs on my system.
Oh yeah.
You weren't supposed to tell her that, Randy.
Oh, that's right.
That was our secret.
I should have paid attention in your class.
You're hacking into the company.
Prove it. Prove it. Prove it.
That's
So
No,
yeah,
good job, Laura.
Yeah, thanks.
You are officially a hacker now, so congrats
that's
on
right.
that.
That's right. Thank you.
She
Amazing.
wasn't already.
I was like a closet hacker before. Now it's
Now you just built an
Now it's
entire data center.
full blown out in the
35
open.
minutes. Full on. You even have security configurations in there. It even blocks phishing attacks already.
I feel so secure in there. And personally, for myself, I'm really excited. I've talked about this a little bit on the stream in the past, but I'm excited to kind of learn more CSS and HTML coding with Visual Studio Code is in there, so I can kind of play around with some of those things. That's one, and of course I can use WordPress in it as well. It's got a full browser. You can kind of do whatever. So my intent eventually is to code a new website for the Cloud Underground from the ground up. So
And
someday.
The last thing I'll say
Someday it will
about
launch.
Laura's work on this is, so we had launched something called the Pied Hacker Experience, and I built this Olympiad white paper, and that was a big part of it. And it went over like how to set up the Olympiad manually, like go through all the stuff. And at the time, that was the only way to like build these configurations, is you just got to build it. And so we would teach you how. And most folks, it would take an average of 3 months to finish the white paper, and the Olympiad does like maybe 10 times as much as the Olympiad white paper. So probably take at least a good year to manually build that. But you can, instead of building these things manually, just copy paste it and it will just build itself.
Oh, I think Jordan's coming, so we might have our last member might be joining us in just a second.
So Ken, you engineered a part of the Nexus. How does it feel?
Feels special, and doing all that from outer space is
Yeah.
an accomplishment in my mind.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the torpedo and what you guys came up with for that.
Yeah, I'll cover it at a high level, but basically it helps you move things around, and we'll leave it as that. So now you have to be curious and go look at the website and find out more about that. One of the things just to touch on from an educator standpoint on the Underground Nexus and capability, because I think people think there's only one way to do things. So we've got to have virtual machines, we've got to have all this space and pay for all this storage, or force our students to have certain hardware and be able to run these virtual machines, VirtualBox, VMware, whatever, to be able to actually follow along with our trainings. But what the Nexus does is, as an individual content creator, myself or others out there, you can actually compete against these big companies now, these big edtech companies, because you can build up virtual lab environments without the cost, without the cost of scale and everything like that, where your students can run on a Raspberry Pi, or they can connect via a browser. So you can do this now, right? The technology's there now. Whereas before it was just, hey, Randall, download VirtualBox. Hopefully you got enough space. If not, sorry, you pay for the course. My bad. And that's, I've heard so many complaints on that from individual students in the past. Not just on my courses, if they have to download a VM, but other places as well. That's like the go-to standard out there, de facto. But it's changed now. So if you're a content creator watching this episode, then just know that there's a way for you, and Integrate is free. So there's a way for you to actually build out your own labs and everything, and create courses, and just teach on a lot of things that you can't do everything with a VM. And there's some things that you need to have some different capability to do and make fun and everything. So I see Jordan coming in, so I guess we'll let him in. He hasn't paid the pizza, pizza fee yet, but we'll collect it later.
It's made it.
But yeah, I'm super excited. So go check out the website that Laura linked everyone. Find out more information. You can see a couple of use cases there, but you can really do a ton of different things with it. Let your creativity flow and just immerse yourself in it. As she mentioned, 45 minutes, she's all set up. A lot of that was just waiting for things to install, which is a great time to eat some pizza or have a drink or whatever. So just, play around with it. I mean, there's people I see in the group. There's so many people with such great ideas. Just doing a lot of cool stuff with it that I never even thought of. And I just think that it's a great place for, a lot of us maybe don't think we're artists. Well, we're technical people. We're not artists, but really we are. And this is a way for you to take a canvas, a blank canvas, and build whatever you want with it, essentially, and do it for free, which is a great thing. So I'll be quiet now and let someone else talk, because I can go for hours.
And to kind of just like back up a lot of what Ken's saying, because it lets you move your data around, what the benefits are behind that is like normally you need an actual data center or co-location, or you do need like Azure or AWS to do some of the things that the underground Nexus allows folks to be able to do. And it's really because of the fact that you can move the data around that makes it work just like a data center. So you can get all of the benefits of having a data center without a data center. Still have to do some tooling, but you don't have to do all the wiring, you don't have to have the expenses. It's actually faster even if you have to spend time learning it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Randy, let's put you on the spot. What do you...
Before we put me on the spot, let's talk about Jordan for a minute, because I bet he saw the live stream go live and was like, hey, I was supposed to be on there.
We're all here.
No, it's all good.
The Nexus is, well, we were talking about virtual machines, right? And VMs are really resource intensive. And so unless you have a super beefy system, VMs sometimes aren't an option. And so with the Nexus, I mean, you can spin up some serious development environments, fairly easily, and you can destroy them quickly if you want, or you can leave them running if you want, and they're really not resource intensive. I mean, we've talked about running it on Raspberry Pi. I have some Jetson Nanos back here. I'm running on Jetson Nano. We got Jetson AGXs, desktop, whatever you want to run it on. It runs on anything. So I like the fact that it's agnostic. I mean, that's the best part. And if I want to learn cloud and do cloud things, I don't need AWS accounts. I don't need Azure accounts. Not that there's anything wrong with them. But this is free, and I can learn and do whatever I want. And so as a developer, a few years, I like the fact that I can just build whatever I want, whenever I want. And it's really not that hard to do anything that I want. That's probably the best part of the Nexus, is the possibilities really are endless. I have, as we all know, I have aspirations to build things for space. And so I can definitely play around and emulate things for space on there, and learn how to create those development environments. And there really are, I don't know exactly what I will use it for, but we mentioned websites and creating, labs. If you want to learn how to hack things, even put them in there, spin them up, defend them, hack them. It's easy. It doesn't cost you anything. It's super cheap. So that's the best part, I think, of the Nexus, is that it's easy. Even a CEO can do it.
That's
45
right.
minutes.
So easy. Even a CEO
It's
can.
so easy a CEO can do it. Yeah. So
I should link that. I should link my video.
It's been,
Yeah.
the culmination of all the work everybody's put into it, and just seeing how something like this come together. And then, all the folks in the DevSecOps dojo, man, they do some amazing things with it already. And a lot of their input is in there. Like, they did a lot of it. So I like the fact that it's a culmination of many people's work and ideas.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think there's a couple like really good points that you made in there, Randall. One being that like it is super affordable. It doesn't, it's way cheaper than a lot of the more traditional solutions for this sort of thing, and it's also agnostic. So you can really kind of, if you do develop a product, you can you can distribute it more widely because it's going to be available to a larger number of people, not just particular one person using a particular kind of hardware. So I think that's pretty awesome as well.
And at this point, over 50 people have contributed either code or architectures or things that they want to. So it really, like, if someone were to be like, oh wow, because I get this question, people are like, well, how did you do all of that? And it's no, I didn't do it all. You're seeing everyone here, and it takes like conversations and things that, use cases, and everyone has played a part in the development of the Underground Nexus, whether it's directly coding or sharing architectures or sharing use cases or saying, oh, if only this existed, if only, the if onlys turn into solutions if people are only willing to ask better questions instead of just be like, well, this doesn't exist. Well, maybe instead of saying this doesn't exist, like, well, if only this exists, is it possible? Is this possible? Make things possible.
Definitely.
So I guess, Jordan, you have played a huge part in the engineering of the Nexus, because the Nexus actually began as bare metal, and we have lots of bare metal flavors from the Nexus, which actually, it started off as us building an operating system for... we made dual clusters, and I was working on this thing called the Olympiad, but really we were working on an operating system for supercomputers that looks and feels like a normal desktop. Like, imagine if a supercomputer like desktop thing, you plug it in. This right here would never normally work like a normal desktop, but the Underground Nexus is a supercomputer operating system and makes it work and feel just like a normal desktop, except for it's a supercomputer operating system. Jordan, how did it feel to make a supercomputer operating system for a bunch of loosely coupled supercomputers that we now have in a crazy mess that you made?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been exciting to watch it grow and evolve, and yeah, because like you say, we just started with single systems, or I mean, originally we were doing the little tournament with everybody had their own Pi and tried to hack each other, and it's just like grown from there. And yeah, now we're trying to cluster together systems and cluster systems across networks and potentially great distances, and yeah, it's really exciting to see what it's evolving into, and how flexible and powerful the Nexus is. And yeah, I don't know, it's really insane to have basically made an operating system that is designed to be able to cluster things together. That's what baked into the base design of it. So anyway, yeah, I don't know.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly.
Weren't we going to call it the Jordan at first?
Our radio station, so for those who have checked out our radio stations, we have two of them. If you go to the NATO as Code YouTube channel or the Cloud Underground YouTube channel, you'll notice that we have these 24/7 continuous radio stations that run. Jordan built the...
Oh, sorry, I'm watch out, I got it. I was trying to get the link for it, but it autoplayed. Sorry, guys. That's just a sample of our lovely radio station.
Oh, yeah, radio station. So if anyone who's checked those out, we run those from, like, the Underground Nexus later, like, is, I guess, a graduation of the Olympiad that lives inside of it, is the threat intelligence engine that's sort of like the security aspect of the Underground Nexus in many ways. So the radio station and all the streams running from that's the original Underground Nexus. So whether or not you want to run it on bare metal or in containers, the containerized version of the Underground Nexus is the version of the Underground Nexus that's in a unique, controlled environment that's pre-configured. But for someone who wanted to just take exactly what the Nexus is and just build it on bare metal, it's actually built to where if you just change something in the Docker file, it'll just build it onto a server like bare metal for you, and then you don't even have to run it from a container. It'll build what the radio station is. Thanks for doing that, Jordan, because without that, we wouldn't have the Nexus.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. What other uses do you guys foresee people potentially using the Nexus for? Any other thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, large companies, of course, you can bring down your cloud spend significantly. I would imagine I mean, obviously tens of thousands, but definitely for very large enterprises in the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, it'll drop that cost. So, I mean, that's one of the big things. I mean, there's a number of solutions out there, right, to help you control costs and get control, especially like in AWS, of alerting you when your costs are going up, and especially if you have, say, an instance that's taken over by individuals with malicious intent, and they're dropping a bunch of things out there and racking up your costs and everything like that. This is an alternate, right, where it's a lot more secure. It's got security baked in, right, and that's I forget the buzzword. I can't remember the buzzword right now, but there's some buzzword that's gone around the last couple of years in the industry. I wish I could think of it. But anyways,
Zero
basically
trust?
baking it. No, that's a different one. There's so many. We can play buzzword bingo. But it's not something else. But basically, baking in security. This has it baked in already. This is developed from real people that actually work in industry, instead of a bunch of. No, we won't go there. It's designed by people that actually have been, boots on the ground experience in industry for a long time. I know Randall mentioned he's only got, 6 months as a developer, but that's 6 months plus years, and we won't say how many because he's only 22.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it's a huge cost saver. For enterprise, it's a very, very large cost saver, but also for smaller business owners that are trying to get cloud spun up, or move to a hybrid cloud model, or just get rid of the overwhelming cost that they just don't have. You just don't have the resources if you're doing like $1 million or less in revenue to sit there and spend half of that on cloud spend because you didn't know, and these large providers just say, "Oops, you should have read the fine print." Sorry.
Yeah,
So-
it's just so convenient. I think that's
That's
another
true.
thing about it. Like
Yeah.
there's so, everything you need is right there. And like you said, the security is already like baked in. Can you guys talk a little bit about that, about the security aspect and what makes
Yeah.
it so secure?
All I'm going to say is I tried to hack NATO, couldn't do it.
I'm happy to talk about the security elements of it because
Yeah.
I built a lot of that stuff out. So the foundation that it's built on is called the Olympiad, which I guess I'll link the Olympiad too. So if fortunately,
So I just want to say real quick, the face you just made, Nathan, that should be on every postcard in America.
amazing.
He's a very
The
animated
typing
person.
face.
I guess it's time for the link. Okay, so if anyone's for those in the Facebook group, I just linked the Olympiad, which is sort of like the foundation that a lot of it came from. So I come from the SIM market, just in general, and SIM is one of the most daunting technologies out there. And if you want to have something that, especially if you want to learn SIM, a lot of what I was doing came from wanting to also learn SIM, and learning SIM also requires having data to play with and data to sample. And so I built this resource called the Olympiad that sort of gets people to a SIM-ready posture, where then you still have to build out the rest of it, or you could go outsource the rest of it. You get to choose. Do you want to outsource the rest of the SIM, or do you want to build the rest of the SIM? It's your evils after that, because SIM is a very manual process of building out inventory and monitoring. So when you work in data centers, you have to know, like if you have 5,000 servers, you still have to know what those 5,000 servers are, what they're doing, where they're at, and monitor every single one of them. And a lot of companies wait too long to start setting up monitoring, to the point to where building monitoring is like a nightmare. So the foundation that we started on, I'm like, well, if monitoring is the thing that's the biggest bear, building out inventory and all that stuff, what if I just did something that automatically started collecting your inventory for you and automatically helped monitoring, where you don't even have to know that it's already doing that. You just start using it, and as long as you just use the configurations, it just by default already is doing those things for you. Just because we use GitOps. So then, if you're setting up a repository, you know exactly that's an inventory item by force. And then inside of every single Nexus, it maintains its own inventory inside of Portainer and something called Pi-hole. So you have an automated inventory system, which is nice, and automated monitoring. And a lot of the things that make security an absolute nightmare and why people are like, well, we don't have time for that. Well, we'll get around to that later. It's because those two things are so oddly daunting or just really dry, and people they're like, well, we have all these other things to do, and that's the last thing they're going to do. You don't have to worry about it. It's already there. So if you just start using it, then just by using the Nexus, you are building out your inventory automatically, whether you know you are or not. You are already getting monitored, and then we focus on DNS first, because oftentimes you'll find that a lot of modern attacks and things like that attack like cloud DNS zones, and if you're not using things like DNSSEC and all this other stuff, you have a whole bunch of other issues that are going to start coming up. So we start immediately with DNS. It's got a nice, brilliant dashboard, looks quite nice. So from there, the Underground Nexus also has what's called like built-in hardening. So what hardening is, if you're trying to you'll notice that the Underground Nexus has two installs, like a development install and a secure install. And the secure install has like 2 ports open, while the other one just has a whole bunch of ports open. Generally speaking, you don't want to just like turn on something like a DNS server or a DHCP server, which is what the Pi-hole is, which the Nexus is, a DNS server and a DHCP server. If you don't have like a firewall, you need a firewall. So it actually has its own built-in firewall structure that it's hardened with, and it's a little complicated, so I'm not going to get quite into just how that's structured. But then one of the other things that the Underground Nexus does to kind of help people out is things like Kubernetes are really hard to configure, which then means that misconfigurations are the things that will get you hacked. It's a little harder to figure things out when you have bad configuration. So we have pre-configured Kubernetes, which is Kubernexus, which is even load balanced for you, so that when you go and start using it, it's already load balanced, and you can manage those ports. And then of course the Kubernetes, so Kubernexus inside of there, is also firewalled the same way that, say, like the Pi-hole and all the other resources in the Nexus are. But if you then go and access the Nexus itself, then you can access everything behind the Nexus little firewall, software firewall. And then you can just use the Underground Nexus, and you can access all of the ports from inside of it, and it has its own unique like web top. And one thing for those who are ultra nerdy, ultra geeky, and all that good stuff, the web top that everyone goes to is a fancy proxy. It's a fancy reverse proxy is what it is. In the form of a Ubuntu Mate desktop. So even though it looks and feels like a desktop, what you're actually connecting to is a reverse proxy in a way that looks like something that we're used to. People can wrap their heads around, oh, it's a desktop. I can access things from this desktop. Oh, it's got a browser. Oh, I can open Firefox. But if we then take the desktop away from the proxy, then it's like, oh, how do I get into, how does this proxy work? You have to like type in a bunch of like client things, and you have to figure out how to reroute the what again. So it's very uniquely load balanced using a web top. And then to go even further, because containers, some of you might look at it and be like, wait a minute, you can't run a whole bunch of processes inside of a container. You'll get what are called zombie processes, which are like, you get processes that end up thinking that they have like the same identity is kind of what happens in containers. Containers aren't really designed like full-on operating systems. So the Underground Nexus has a resource called an S6 overlay. And the S6 overlay, for those who are also ultra nerdy, there's something called an init system that prevents processes from becoming zombie processes. And the S6 overlay is an init management system so that you can have containers run processes in ways that you see like conventional operating systems run processes, and then any process that really probably isn't going to run well, even with the S6 overlay, we can just spin those up as additional containers behind the firewall that just look and feel like applications on the desktop. Once again, even though it's a proxy, but it looks and feels like Ubuntu. So I do a lot of making things look and feel like what people are used to, and then everything behind the hood is very different. So it's like if you're using, say, Windows or OS 10 or Linux in general, the hardware might be different under the hood. The little like kernels might be different under the hood. If you try to install an Apple program from Mac on a Windows machine or vice versa, it might not work because they don't work the same way under the desktop. The Underground Nexus falls under that same general category because it has its own like full-on function system. For those who know what functions are, all servers need servers all need functions. Anyways, it's complicated. Yeah, and we pre-configure it because that one of the number one security risks is misconfigurations, because everything I'm talking about, because it's so vast and so much to figure out, that human error then oftentimes is your number one risk.
Humans make errors?
Whoa. Laura, you built a whole server and configured in everything in like 45 minutes.
I did it.
Without misconfigurations.
I'm a superhuman.
You're a genius. I've
You
never
know
heard
that,
of
Ken.
someone doing such a thing. Security.
Yeah, security. I also just want to give a quick shout out to Jermaine. He's watching over on LinkedIn. He and NATO have been doing some awesome live streams in the last couple weeks related specifically to the Nexus, digging deep. So you guys should definitely go to the NATO's Code YouTube channel and check out those live streams. I'm going to repost, actually, we were just talking about it on the Cloud Underground YouTube channel as well. So you'll be able to find those in a couple different places and learn more and more and more about the Nexus.
And Jermaine's working with me on another massive Nexus update. We're making another update. We're adding the HashiCorp suite. So we're going to add HashiCorp Vault for managing passwords at scale using what are called secrets. It's like passwords for like 50 machines, password management for more than one machine at a time. Then you have HashiCorp Packer, so for people who are building large-scale distributed systems. Now, really, because I'll talk about like who are these things for it too. But then, anyways, then the one that is notorious that people have heard of, if you've heard of cloud things, or at least if you work in cloud, you inevitably have heard of this one, is Terraform. Because Terraform is one of the only tools that can automate the construction of even bare metal deployments. Like if you have a whole data center and they're all wired up and all that good stuff, and you don't want to go from system to system or have some clunky way to configure things, Terraform can basically just set up every single system automatically for you, like 1,000 of them if you wanted to. That's the power of Terraform. So then why do people like so who, this kind of goes back to what Ken was saying earlier for like use cases, like who uses these things. So who is this most valuable for? If you are trying to build, say, like a company and you want to be able to do cloud resources without the cost is one of the biggest heavy hitters for the Nexus, because you can get off the ground using the Underground Nexus at a fraction of the cost, like even 10 times lower cost, to just like launch a new product or launch a new MVP, or even test to see if a product might even work. Maybe like, well, could we build an app that? Well, could we build a cloud resource that? Well, if you follow other formats or use other resources, your options are slim for getting that out quickly. This will help you get it out quickly, and it has multiple web tops, which basically are like desktops, and they have browsers in them, so you can test your web apps and your browser-based applications that you build if you are building cloud web-based applications. Now, the other category of like company that like who does the Terraform and all that stuff really benefit? Companies who, like, if you have like 10 million plus in revenue, it is just a thing that's saving like 100,000 $200,000, even $700,000 in a given year on your infrastructure, the underground nexus has the power to help save literally hundreds of thousands of dollars in infrastructure costs, especially for your development, especially for your testing, and then depends on how you decide you want to host. And then one of the other things about large-scale enterprise companies is it can drive the cost of your migrations down tremendously, because you can actually strap the underground nexus as a thing to migrate to instead of migrating to other servers. And what normally happens in big data centers with these big multi-million-dollar companies is they have to have all the same servers. So if they move to a new server platform, then they got to get rid of maybe 1,000 servers, 100 servers, but that's a lot of servers, that's a lot of system waste, that's a lot of compute that could still be getting used. But those systems have to be uniform, and if those systems aren't uniform, they got to go, and you got to rip and replace. And that's why a lot of these migrations can be very painful for the people who manage infrastructure. If you instead use, say, like the underground nexus, then it is agnostic and can allow you to cluster your resources regardless of what your architecture is. So you can, in theory, cluster a Raspberry Pi with a Jetson Nano, with a desktop computer, with a giant server, maybe 20 other giant servers, and they don't even have to be in the same location. You could have, right now we are running like 4 sites, or 4 lines anyways, and you can connect your resources, you can share your data, and thanks to the CyberLife Torpedo, you can make that data available globally to whoever you want to make that data available to, and share it securely, because there's security controls with the CyberLife Torpedo, which is an S3 bucket. Anyone who uses the underground nexus, you'll notice there's this thing that says Nexus bucket on the desktop, and you open it up and then it says S3 Torpedo. That is a resource where you can actually kind of build like your own cloud drive. That's what that is. You can even turn it into a NAS for your home if that's what you want to do with it. And the Pi-hole, you can turn into a home security operations center, or a security operations center for all your developers and workers, or your office. Doesn't really matter, whatever you're trying to do with it. So anyways, I guess like at scale for large companies, it's incredibly valuable for those types of things. And then also, if you're trying to learn those things, that's the other person who this benefits. So if you're just trying to work on a single computer and tinker around with Python, this might not be the thing that you jump for joy. You're like, I never need to scale anything. But if you're looking for scale, it's the cheapest way to do it that I've ever heard of. That's why we made it.
It's a great way to repurpose some old laptops or whatever you got laying around. If you need compute, throw that on there and you can use them. And then you can access them, even, cluster them all together, build your own cloud, and then access it from anywhere you go. So
and also, just adding to what Randy just said, for all the nonprofits out there, especially if you're outside the U.S., as you're getting those old laptops that a lot of us donate, laptops, desktops, even Pis, this can be used for you to actually train people. I know there's a lot of organizations I've donated to over the years that, especially in different countries in Africa, that could use something like this to actually scale out and leverage those old devices for your trainings. So, I mean, like we said before, the possibilities are literally endless with this technology.
Yeah, and it's accessible globally, and people should be using a VPN anyway, so set up a VPN for your own security. But boom, then there goes your accessibility too.
Except for in Russia. not right now. Sorry, guys. Not right now.
Technology.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome. It's very
Done
cool.
many things.
Yeah. So, any other final thoughts on the Nexus? And I mean, obviously, this won't be our final thoughts. You'll be hearing a lot more from us about the Nexus in coming weeks and months and probably years. The beauty of it too is that we're constantly, like Nato was saying, working on updates, and there's always going to be new tools that we can add, and we'll be trying to add, and so it's very, very exciting stuff.
Will we see NATO at the Super Bowl halftime show next year for Cloud Underground? Will that be a thing?
He's got
Drones.
his MIDI guitar, so
Drones
he's gonna blow up in the next year.
I'll have to program the
Become
AI
the world famous hacker
That's
MIDI
right.
guitarist.
help me play the guitar. I did get a MIDI guitar though. We have a radio station. If you hear a really terrible song at some point on my own radio stream, believe it or not, that's one of the things I got it for. Is I will be playing the guitar on my channel because I'm trying to learn the guitar and I got a digital one. So that's silly as it sounds. I waited 2 months for it to ship because it's a special order. Because not just anyone can have a MIDI guitar apparently. They're sold out now too.
This particular one, yeah.
It's a good one.
It's very
Slim pickings.
exciting.
Somehow we also got a PS5. By the way, our PS5 is integrated into our underground Nexus mesh, so I can play it globally too. So I'm like, play.
So many things you can do.
Play everything, all the games everywhere. Make your
Fancy
movies.
crap.
Oh yeah, Minecraft.
Hey, we have a whole video on that.
Oh yeah, we do.
Minecraft in the Nexus.
We're gonna have to do some like Minecraft social times soon. Now that we're starting to get these things going.
Definitely.
Priorities.
It'd be cool.
I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, we'll be very curious to hear from everyone who is watching the stream or watching the replay. Please do drop a comment in. Let us know what you're planning on using the Nexus for. And we can't wait to see what everybody does with it. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps this up. Thanks everyone for joining us, Cloud Underground and NATO's Code, for another Fridays on the Edge. Thanks to Randy, thanks to Jordan, thanks to Ken, thanks NATO. Thanks everyone for being here, and we'll see you next